There is a certain kind of person who doesn't just think, but they sink into their thoughts, they spiral inside them, and they stay there. These people don't skim life or conversations, and they most definitely do not skim themselves. Their mind doesn't move outward, but it moves downward into meaning, into motive, into contradiction. They sit with thoughts most people avoid, and most people avoid these thoughts because they think these thoughts are inconvenient, unsettling, or too quiet to distract themselves from. Deep thinkers are the people who don't just ask what happened, but why it mattered. Not who was wrong, but what this says about me and about them. And once their mind goes there, it doesn't rush back to the surface. This kind of person learns early that thinking is safer than reacting. They realize that understanding is safer than expressing oneself, and that silence is safer than being exposed. Freud noticed this first. He saw that some people don't throw their energy into the world, but instead they pull it inward. Instead of acting, they observe. Instead of reacting, they analyze. Instead of expressing, they turn things into thoughts. Their mind becomes a container, not because they are weak, but because the world at some point felt unpredictable. Maybe for them, the world became too loud or too much. So, the mind adapts. The mind thinks that if it can understand what's happening, then it won't be blindsided by it. It thinks that if it can name it, then it won't be overwhelmed. In that sense, thinking becomes a way to stay in control. It wants control over the chaos. These people don't push meaning outward, they pull it inward. They ask themselves questions like, what did I miss? What was my part in this? What does this say about who I am? Life doesn't just happen to them, but it gets processed. It gets processed slowly and carefully, sometimes even painfully. They carry responsibility early. They feel guilt where others feel anger. They reflect where others accuse. That's why they are quiet. That's why they pause before speaking. Their mind is already running 10 layers deep, but depth has weight. Deep thinkers often feel older than they are. They feel tired in a way that sleep doesn't fix, and it's because they've been holding complexity for a long time. Then there's Jung. Jung understood these people automatically. He said some minds are oriented toward the unconscious. For example, toward symbols, dreams, and images. They don't think in straight lines, but they think in associations. One thought triggers a memory. The memory triggers a feeling. The feeling triggers a question about meaning, identity, existence. That's why they feel misunderstood. They're speaking a depth language in a surface world. They're not trying to be intense, but they're trying to be honest. Jung would say these people are pulled towards individuality, or in other words, becoming who they actually are. And we are aware that that path is lonely because you have to meet your shadow, your contradictions, the part of you that don't fit the image you present. Deep thinkers don't run from that. They sit with it, sometimes too long, and that's the danger. Thinking can turn into rumination. Insight can turn into self-punishment. Depth can turn into drowning. Not every thought needs to be solved. Not every feeling needs to be dissected. Depth needs grounding because the point isn't just to understand life, it's to live it. Nothing meaningful is built on shallow thinking. We can see throughout history that we moved forward because someone asked the question everyone else avoided. Deep thinkers notice what others ignore. They feel what others suppress. They give words to things people sense but can't name. So if this is you, then there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken, and you sure are not slow. You're not too much. You're built for depth. Just don't disappear into it. Bring something back up with you.